Hello viewers, welcome to Codeforany. If you hear new, hit subscribe buttons and notification bell so you can never miss any our incredible content. Node.js app and backend API inside. Today we need to create here the drivers bookings. Request accepts API we need to develop this years, and this request first of all need to get this here the user book this request. We need to get this here drivers apps inside the one sockets, and to opens here the pop-ups and to set here the timers to specific times. If you this times inside we need to press the accept button, then to call this here the this creating API. First of all, need to define here the app.post, and we need to write down here API slash write request accept, and also need to return here two objects. First of all, need to call back inside get here the two objects. First one is the request objects. Second one is the send here the response return into the apps, and to call this here the function operators like this. Now need to print this here the gets print this here the request body like this, and need to save this here request object inside this value request dot body. Now need to check this here the tokens. Need to request dot headers, need to call this here, and need to pass this here the response objects, and need to get this here if are the valid these users, then need to returns, and also need to verify here access only this API for the driver users. Need to like this, need to write down here, and give this here the function operators like this. We need to check here the this user are valids or not these tokens. That's we need to verify, and then after we need to check this here the parameters. Check parameters valid, so need to give this here the response object. Then after need to pass this here the request objects, and to check here one by one the parameters, and also need to give this here user object, new object here. Driver ID we need to get here the which drivers is accepting, so need to get this here to drivers ID. We need to need this here the booking ID, and request token like this. We need to need years, and need to set this years. And then after so need to write down here the brackets if valid, then to all these years. And now need to write down here the db query, and to identify here the this rights booking status. Need to check this here. First of all, need to fetch here the select booking status, and write down here from, and to use this here book detail tables, and we need to write down here where conditions. Need to set here booking id, and to set this here the question mark like this set. And then after need to pass this here the request object dot booking id, need to pass this here like this value, and also need to give this here get here the response errors, and results need to get this here to value, and call this here the function operators, and to write down here. And like this we need to check here if gets any errors, then to throw and to return these errors. throw errors with the response like, and to return this years. Like this need to calling this years, and to terminate this request need to pass this here the errors. If need to get this here the results dot length more than 0, then else parts need to call this here. First of all, request JSONs need to return here response JSONs, not request JSONs, and we need to return here the message status is equal to, need to write down here the 0, and we need to give this here message head g else need to return this here. Now we need to check this here. First of all, if request ending array, inside we need to get this here the request object dot request tokens, get this here is equal to undefined or request object dot pending array, give this here the value is equal to null value. Like this need to gets, that means we need to know any request pending available for these tokens already accepted, otherwise the timeouts. Like this need to call here. That's why not gets here found this request tokens, because need to save this here the memory inside these tokens, not save inside the database. That's why need to directly check inside, because this is the temporary tokens for the verify here these rights are sending are valid or not, need to identify. That's why I need to use this here the like this tokens here not matters, need to copy here and to give this here the return replay, paste here, and we need to set here the status to, and to give this here token invalid. Need to pick this here the type of invalid token, request token invalid. Like this need to return here the message, and to give this here status to like this configures here, and also need to returns here another things. Need to check this here results object of 0, and to check here the booking status equal to need to check here is not cancels, PSC cancels, yes cancels. Like this check years, then also need to return this years, um, return this message else parts JSON, copy this years and to paste this years, and to give this here rider users cancel request. Like this need to send this here message, else parts we need to call this here under the parts we need to callings. First of all to needs here to create here the query, and to fire this here this query need to call this here. First of all need to create here the request OTP for the, if you user enter this code, and after need to start this, right? Otherwise not starts this rush, because need to user safety is need to take this here. That's why need to call this here the OTP enters here like this value, and I need to create here the random OTP for these rights. Need to give this here plus and to math dot random functions need to call this in and to multiply by the 900 like this. Need to get here the OTP codes need to getting here, and then after need to check this here and to write down here the DB query and to call this here update booking detail, and we need to as give this here the alias BD and need to call this here plus signs. Then after need to call this here the inner join, user detail. Yes, we need to do this here for these tables used for the drivers, and call this here BD dot driver ID is equal to UD dot user ID for this tables joins for the drivers. Now need to create another this user detail tables and to create for use this here is tables for user app. Add users need to give this here RUD is equal to riders or users details need to write down here BD dot user ID equal to RUD dot user ID like this. Need to call this for the joins, and another joins need to calling here inner join and to for the service detail as we need to give this here SD and to write down here on and to call this here BD dot service ID equal to SD dot service ID set here space and to now need to write down here the set conditions set and to write down here the BD dot status, not only status need to write down here booking status and to change this year's booking status as a write down here need to set bs dot go users because need to this now request and to directly set this here this status, and another's need to give this here uli dot status is equal to 2 and means not log out these users like this flag need to set this here and also need to bd dot accept times give this here the question marks like this and also need to write down here bd dot and to use this here the start time is equal to set here the now time also need to give this here now because both time is now. Now bd dot sorry, BT dots. Another status need to update this here for the here make mistake RDU user ID is equal to UD dot car ID. Need to set this here after the accepts which cars need to comes here and to give this here the that's why I need to set this here user car ID set here and then after so need to use this here UD dot request send set here status 2 for the running rides like this need to set this here then after UD status need to write down here is equal to create here the case conditions to write down here the case when conditions need to check this here UD status is equal to 1 and this text maybe on it to update your status to remove here. Now need to write down here bd dot OTP need to updates inside this right details OTP code at here question mark like this here and also need to check here where conditions and to write down here bd dot booking ID at question marks and conditions and to give this here bd dot driver ID is equal to question mark like these conditions and to pass this here the parameters need to give this here first parameters need to give this here check here the value set results now request sends need to set this here to means user now started that's why I need to not logouts that's why I need to set this here the to request send as to set here and then after need to give this here the OTP need to pass this here OTP code and also need to give this here the request dot booking ID and then after we need to set this here the request user object dot driver user ID like this need this here now need to get this here the response and to get here response give this here the results and to use here the functions operators and to first we need to check this here if gets any errors then to call this here the helper throw errors and to write down here the errors and to return here results and to return these functions not executes the this value first of all need to check this here the results dot affected row more than 0 and we need to call this here successfully else parts need to set here the else message we need to return here need to copy here response and to set here the MSC and to give this here status as a 0 like this set here and inside now we need to first of all we need to remove here the pending request array inside this data request object dot request tokens need to clear here. Then after need to return this here the user response for these drivers. Set here the status, set here once, and also need to give this here the message returns, ride accepted successfully. Like this returns here the this message and to all these here. Now we need to identify here the this booking request creating users need to send here the socket as well as send here the push notifications. Your these persons are the your request are the accepted, and like this we need to send here the message. And this process for the user apps we need to create here. First of all, we need to identify here the some user information we need to get this here inside the database. First of all, we need to write down here the select query, and we need to write down here user tables from user detail tables. Need to use these here these tables and give this here the alias ud like this. And now need to pass this here. First of all, need to tokens for need to needs here the push tokens columns like this. Then after need to need this here the user types, not matters here user types. Here need to needs here user id ud dot user id like this. Need to get here. Then after need to get here. Yeah. Another inner joins need to need this here for the booking details. Need to join here. Join. Write down here. Booking details and view this here. Need to use this here. Primary tables need like this set here. And this user details are going to set here the secondary tables. Here not matters here the orders, but need to easy to identify. That's why I need to call this here and to need this here the pickup date, and also need to this to write down here on methods now. Bd dot user id is equal to bd dot driver. Like this we need to pass this years and this value we need to set this years. Not driver id, user id, because we need to need this here the user data. That's why we need to use this here the bd dot user id. We need to get this years. After we need to set here the where conditions here enters and to write down here where bd dot booking id, set here the question mark. And also need to get this here the data. Need to pass this here request object dot booking id, and to get this here the results. Function operators, and to call this here check this here, and to also need to check this here this value, put this here, and no send here response because need to already send is at the driver, and here not matters because we need to find out here the user informations, riders apps, and this API for the driver apps. That's why not need to here send here the errors in PB related. Any exceptions not need to send inside the response. Now need to check this year's results length. We need to check this year's result dot length more than 0, and we need to go insights and to need this here the socket logics need to needs here identify here the user sockets need to find here. Yesterday we need to write down here user socket logics, and to use this here this socket logics are the copy here, and we need to go to add this here our codes. Need to set this here, paste this here. Now need to use this here the controllers, and to give this here the results ones user ID you need to call this here like this value, and then after need to identify the sockets and to return here the value, as well as need to give this here the booking ID need to write down here request dot booking ID, and also need to pass this here the integers because need to get this here value always the string inside this request objects. To write down here the parse id to call and to paste this here like this, and also need to set this here the status as set here the accept booking status, and send here the right cancel times. Give this here the 300 seconds need to give this here the right cancels. Within these times we need to possible these users need to cancel the sites. If are not possible to cancel these rights, need to increase or decrease this here to times here, and to setting like this here the informations need to configurations are the settings here, and also need to send here the message need to change this here need to write down here uh, driver accepted your, like this need to response need to send inside this data, and also need to give this here need to firings here the sockets need to user accept users request accept sockets events need to fire here like this, and to pass this here the response like this set here. Now need to fire here the push notifications for these users need to calling here need to put this here one signal push fires, and to call this here the methods. First of all need to give this here the user types for the user apps need to send here, that's when to give this here the user types. Now need to pass here the tokens array need to results slash zero, and to pass here the push token like this, and then after need to give this here the titles so need to set as a yes titles best accepted like this. And maybe outside brackets need to write down value. Set here the titles. Then after need to pass here the message. You need to give this here. Drivers request accepted. Is return here the message. And now need to send here push notification inside the data. First of all, need to give this here the booking ID, booking status, cancel times. Need to pass this value, but need to convert inside the string to write down here. Here, here push and double quotes like this value. We need to set this here, and also one more things we need to give this here notification ID. Give this here ns nst id dot accept request. We need to return send here like this value, and to define here the globally this value is good. Right, cancel times we need to set here user ride cancel time is equal to give this here int I sec time in second like this. Need to use this here, copy here, and need to set here dynamically. If you change here directly to plus or minus inside here the top two, no need to change inside the codes. That's why I need to create here the time shortcuts. Need to creating here this value to read here string like this here, and also need to change this here like this value, and to set this here. And like we need to creating here the right request API are the done here implement, and to test this API inside the app integration time need to check this if any gets any error inside this API need to fix and to complete this API. And if you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any question, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.